and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. It's hump day. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, the radio, however you're listening. It is greatly appreciated. Clarke was named the Times Athlete of the Year, which is a huge honor, especially for a basketball player, because it's usually not a basketball player. Clarke and LeBron James are the only two basketball players to ever be named the Times Athlete of the Year. And look, when you're mentioned in, the world of honors and awards with LeBron James, and you're probably doing something correct. It's a real honor for Clarke, and she clearly deserved the award. Okay, they could have given this to her last year or 2 years ago when she was still at Iowa. Okay, she is undoubtedly deserved to be the Athlete of the Year, and she took the world by storm at Iowa. She did for 2 straight years, right? Back-to-back national championship appearances. Okay, no one paid much attention to women's college basketball, yet alone Iowa's women's team, before she showed up. Right? If you paid attention to women's college basketball, it was about UConn and Maya Moore and those women in South Carolina. That was who you paid attention to, not the Iowa Hawkeyes. And then this girl from Iowa shows up and is like, you know who's awesome at basketball? I am. And everyone tuned in and paid attention. The next thing you knew, she was the face of a sport that had never had a face before. She was the face of not just women's college basketball, but she was the face of all of women's basketball, both college and professional. Millions of people tuned in to see her and other girls from Iowa that we had never heard of play basketball. She was the biggest collegiate star since Tim Tebow, and I don't think it's really close. Sure, Johnny Manziel was a big deal, but no one captured the hearts and the attention of the country the way that Clarke and her Iowa teams did. People loved them. Okay, a school that no one cared about all of a sudden was on every TV across the country. It was incredible, and just a simply incredible story. Then she gets drafted. Right? And she gets drafted to our now beloved Indiana Fever, a team that I never would have mentioned before Clarke showed up. She gets drafted to the Fever. And despite elevating the WNBA to heights it had never reached before, it seemed that the women of the WNBA didn't like her. Clarke was more popular than them. Right? They had this idea that, everyone was elevating the league, even though when you look at the ratings, that's not true. It was Clarke who was elevating the league. Okay, they didn't like her because of that and how popular she was. They didn't like her because she was better than them. They didn't like her because she got all these endorsements with Nike and she was making more money than all of them. They didn't like her because she lived a different lifestyle than all of them. And quite frankly, it seemed like some of these WNBA players didn't like Clarke because she was white. And a lot of people rallied behind Clarke and made her this political figure, even though she had never once made any sort of political statement. And all these people, mainly white people, that rallied behind her are about to stop rallying. Because in Clarke's interview with Time Magazine, she said this, quote, "I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing." That was Clarke's quote in her interview with Time Magazine after being named the Times Athlete of the Year. And when she said that, when that quote made its way over to social media, a lot of people got upset, and a lot of people loved what she said. Caitlin Clarke lost some fans when she said that, and she gained some fans as well. To be fair to her, her peers will likely now be nicer to her, but we will see. Caitlin Clarke's entire rookie year was an interesting thing from an outside perspective. Obviously, she was a great player. She wouldn't have been the Times Athlete of the Year if that wasn't the case. But she comes into the league and, a very liberal league. And some people viewed her as this straight white hope, right? In a WNBA filled with, black women and lesbians and things of that nature, Caitlin Clarke was the total opposite of that. She was the straight white girl. And people turned her into this political figure, even though she had never once made any sort of political statement. And now there are people upset with her because of this statement that she made about elevating black women and all of those things. And the reason why they're upset is because they assumed something about her, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They made her into this straight white hope without knowing anything about her other than the fact that she was straight and white and hadn't made any sort of political statement. Okay, don't be mad at her if you are, because you and other people created this fantasy in your minds that she was something that you wanted her to be, and she didn't turn out to be that. Okay, she never said that she was Republican or Democrat or anything like that. People just kind of assumed, and that's on you, not on her. And ever since this quote hit the internet, all of these takes are coming out that are simply wrong. You got people being like, I will never watch the WNBA ever again. I won't watch it. That's good for you, buddy. Congratulations. Take those 2 hours that you would have spent to, I don't know, go do something that you enjoy. I don't know. Because if you're solely watching the WNBA and Caitlin Clarke because she's straight and white, I'll be honest, that's quite frankly a dumb reason to watch anything. You should watch the WNBA and Caitlin Clarke because you like basketball. And I'm here to tell you that the viewership of the WNBA isn't going to change. Okay, there will still be millions of people who tune in to watch Caitlin Clarke play basketball, because even though she made this statement that some people are going to like and some other people are not going to like, the common denominator, the thing that did not change when she said that, was that she is still an incredible basketball player. Okay, people didn't fall in love with her at Iowa because she was a straight white girl. That is not why people tuned in to watch her play basketball. The reason why people fell in love with Caitlin Clarke was because she pulled up from 30 feet and threw flashy passes and got really upset whenever things didn't go her way, and she was fiery and intense and competitive. And more importantly, she was really good at basketball, and she still is all of those things. Last time I checked, to be fair, I didn't read the entire interview with her in Times Magazine. But I feel like if she had said something like, you know what, I'm never going to pull up from 30 feet again. Or if she said, I'm never going to throw a behind the back pass ever again. If she had said that and people were like, yeah, I'm not going to watch anymore if she isn't going to do those things, I'd be like, yeah, cool. That makes sense. That's part of why I watch her. The things that make her entertaining, the things that make people want to tune in are still there. And people still want to see her play basketball. I'm one of them. I like watching her play basketball, believe it or not. Okay, I didn't watch her because I thought she was some political figure like I guess other people did. The only thing that has changed is that she will no longer be used as this political symbol, which isn't a bad thing. I thought people said that they didn't want politics in sports. Okay? People that enjoy basketball, people that enjoy watching Caitlin Clarke pull up from 30 feet, people that enjoy watching Caitlin Clarke throw behind the back passes and do all of those things, people who enjoy that, which is most of the people who watch her play basketball, they will still tune in and watch. That audience that Caitlin Clarke has helped build over the last 3 years, it's not going anywhere. Gainbridge Fieldhouse will still be sold out most of the time when she plays. And when she goes on the road to Washington or Seattle or Toronto, because they're expanding to Toronto, whenever she goes on the road to those places, they're still going to have to move and play in bigger arenas because people still want to watch her play basketball. Okay? That audience, it's not going anywhere. When you are a great athlete and you entertain people, they don't stop watching you because you say something political. That is just a fact. People didn't stop watching LeBron James when in 2016 he showed up on stage in Cleveland, Ohio to help Hillary Clinton campaign. They didn't stop watching. People still tuned into LeBron James. People still listened to everything that he had to say. People still, bought his jersey and went to games and asked him for his autograph. His popularity didn't change a little bit. Steph Curry, and this last year, he comes out and he endorsed Kamala Harris. And, which this isn't surprising at all. Do you know what the highest rated NBA games are? Golden State Warrior games, because people like watching Steph Curry play basketball. And the people that watch the NBA and Caitlin Clarke and theoretically the rest of the WNBA, they watch because they like basketball and they like watching those players play. When the Mahomes family endorsed Donald Trump, guess what didn't happen? People didn't stop watching the Kansas City Chiefs. People continued to watch Patrick Mahomes, even though he and his family endorsed Donald Trump. And guess what? That list continues on. Most people, the majority of people, do not care about an athlete's political leanings. Okay? They do not care at all. Okay? Like that's ultimately why people don't want politics in sports. Okay? It's not because they agree or disagree. It's because they just simply don't care. Okay? And I think the same thing applies here. Ultimately, people do not care about Caitlin Clarke's statement. Most people aren't going to care enough about Caitlin Clarke's statement to stop watching her play basketball because she is an incredible basketball player. All right. And that is the thing that people care about. And guess what? If she starts to suck, people will stop watching. Take the Indiana Pacers. People watched them a lot last year because they were good and they were fun and they were entertaining. Guess what the Pacers have not been this year? Good, fun, and entertaining. They've been bad, clunky, and a disappointment, quite frankly. And guess what that led to? People not watching. Okay, so until Caitlin Clarke starts to suck, which isn't going to be for a long time, then people will continue to watch the WNBA. Are there some people who will stop watching? Sure, no doubt. But it's not going to be enough to change the way that the WNBA is viewed. Colts play against the Broncos on Sunday, and I can't wait. Biggest game since the Colts played the Texans last year in Week 18 with a spot in the playoffs on the line. And that's what this game is for the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, they are going to play a good Broncos team, right? The second best defense in the NFL when you look at points allowed per game at like 18.5. Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson and the rest of this offense, they are going to have their work cut out for them. They are. Hopefully, they're healthier than they were against, the Patriots. Hopefully, Josh Downs and Ryan Kelly and some of these other guys are able to come back. Maybe Samson Ebukam comes back this game. We'll see. But this is a playoff game for them, which usually, not always, but usually, young quarterback in a big game is kind of nerve-wracking a little bit. But we've seen with Anthony Richardson, at least since the benching, we have seen that he has become better, and he's better late in games in the fourth quarter when games are on the line. For some reason, that helps him play better. I don't know why, but it just does. And it's a really intriguing thing with him because hopefully, because this is a playoff game, because this game is so important, that focus and energy that Anthony Richardson brings in the fourth quarter of games, hopefully he brings it for the full four quarters. Okay, hopefully that guy who just isn't denied, because that's really what happens, right? That guy is tough. He is. hopefully that toughness and that drive and that just will to win that was overpowering in that game against the Patriots, hopefully that shows up for the full 4 quarters against the Broncos. Because if it does, then the Colts are going to have a legitimate chance to win that game on Sunday against a really good Broncos team that's got a better coach and probably a better quarterback right now and definitely a better defense. Once again, only giving up 18.5 points per game. So I am fascinated by what that game is going to bring on Sunday. I'm fascinated by a lot of things in the NFL. Zach Pereles of CBS Sports, he's going to join coming up here in about 4 minutes. We're going to talk college about a little bit about the college football playoff, Indiana, Notre Dame, all that good stuff. And then we're going to get into the NFL, Colts, Broncos, and then some other NFL topics as well. All that is coming your way with Zach Pereles here in about 4 minutes.
More winners, more often. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. Joining me now from CBS Sports, writer about the NFL, Zach Pereles. Zach, what's going on, man?
How's it going? Lots of stuff going on. So excited to be on.
Dude, like you said, there's just a million things happening. We've got Indiana playing against Notre Dame in the college football playoff, which is awesome for the state and awesome for this show. And then the Colts essentially have a playoff game this Sunday against the Broncos, plus all the other craziness that's happening in the NFL. But I want to start with the college football playoff. What were your thoughts on the rankings when they came out?
Yeah, I thought that they were pretty accurate. I was really mostly worried about SMU getting left out, so I'm glad that they did a good job. I do think that there are some issues in how transparent the committee is, and these different things that you can pick, little things here and there. I thought that they did a decent job. If I have to give them a grade, I'd maybe give them a B minus. I thought they did a decent job. It's a hard job. I think Texas is ranked a little higher than I thought they would be. But yeah, I mean, I think that they did an okay job overall, especially for the first 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I somewhat agree. I wouldn't have put in SMU. I know I didn't think that was a hot take. I figured that there'd be more people on the Alabama train than there are. With that being said, I understand, it's tough to put in a team that lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. My thing is, I don't know. I just feel like every team that's in the playoff, I should be able to ask the question of, can I picture them winning the whole thing? And when I asked that about SMU, I think the answer is no, because the two ranked teams that I saw them play, they lost to. My thing with Alabama is, I've seen them beat Georgia and South Carolina, two of the 15 best teams in the country. So I don't know. I've just felt like their best wins so greatly outweighed SMU's that they should have been in.
Yeah, I think that that's a totally good. I mean, there's so many good ways of looking at it. Alabama at its best, yes, that is very much a team that can win it all. I don't think anybody is debating that. I think the issue is at some point you've got to, beat the teams that you should beat too. If you showed one game from Alabama this season and you showed them the Oklahoma game to someone who had never watched any other football, and you said, is this one of the 12 best teams? And you said, this is Oklahoma's not good. What do you think about Alabama? Watch this game. And then they get crushed by Oklahoma. You'd say, this isn't a good team at all. Then if you threw on the Georgia tape, you'd be like, this is a good team. So it's one of these things where the highs were really high for Alabama, but the lows were so low. And that was the thing that we grew so accustomed to under Nick Saban, is that even if Alabama didn't beat every really good team, they would just destroy the teams that were not as good over and over and over again. You had these crazy streaks about, winning streaks against unranked teams, this, that, the other thing. That just was not the case this year. So I think that you're absolutely right in one respect, that Alabama at its best is a top 5 team in the country, but the whole body of work has to go into it. If you considered Alabama a bubble team for the NCAA tournament, if they missed out, you would say they had two horrible losses that never should have happened.
Yeah, and you're you're exactly right. Like I said, I can see it either way. I think the real answer is 12 teams is too many, but no one will ever agree with that. But so, joined by Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. He writes a newsletter for them. He also writes articles on the NFL. Last thing here on the college football playoff, but before we go to the NFL, every single first round game, the spread is over a touchdown. Indiana is a 7.5 point underdog. SMU is a 9 point underdog. Tennessee is a 7.5 point underdog. Clemson is an 11 point underdog. One of these teams is going to get upset. If you had to pick one, who would you pick?
Oh man, that's a great question. I just have trouble trusting Ohio State. So I would probably go there. I get like Ohio State. I've thought about this bracket a lot because you see, the 9-12 and the 8-9, the 8-9 and the 5-12 and all of these seedings, and you're like, oh, this is the NCAA tournament for basketball. And I just keep being reminded of like, is Ohio State like that team that came in like ranked top, 5 in the nation and just wasn't quite as good as we thought, whereas Tennessee is like pretty solid team, lot of really good players. Maybe they didn't have quite the preseason expectations, but they played pretty darn well. Ohio State is just one of those teams where it's like, if they put it all together, yes, they're underseeded, obviously, but like this is a team that just lost to a mediocre Michigan team at home. I would say that's the one that I'm looking at. Just like Ryan Day has had those troubles in big games. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him, a lot of pressure on these players. And football is a funny sport. Like there's just so much randomness in it. Tennessee's defensive front is really, really good. Tennessee can run the ball if weather is an issue, because there is some not fun weather up ahead. I think that's probably the one that I would feel most strongly about. And then probably Clemson, Texas would be the one behind that, just because Texas just hasn't been like, this is our signature, we are a top tier program win.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I don't know. I think Texas is really good. Like I know that they lost to Georgia twice, but Georgia's arguably the best team in the country. I would say it's Oregon, but if you told me it was Georgia, I wouldn't be upset at you. So I don't know. Texas is still really talented. I don't think Clemson's very good. I kind of like Indiana over Notre Dame, just because if you can lose to Northern Illinois, you can lose to anybody. That being said, I want to talk a little bit about the NFL. If you want to check out Zach's latest article over on CBSSports.com, it's titled NFL Week 14, 5 Things We Liked and Didn't Like. Before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the Colts and the Broncos, because this is a huge game with playoff implications. If the Colts lose, they're done. If they win, they've got a pretty decent shot at making the playoffs when you look at theirs and the Broncos' schedule. How excited are you for this game?
Yeah, I think if you asked me a few weeks ago, and definitely before the season, I would have said, this is just another game. Now it's like, you're absolutely right. It's a playoff game. Those AFC teams, I'm sure people in Indy have not been very happy with how they just consider to keep the boat afloat as the Colts try to chase them down, a bunch of 8 and 5 teams. It's a kind of backs against the wall sort of thing. And so, yeah, really excited about it. I would really, really hope, if I'm a Colts fan, I would say this is where we can establish our run game. Obviously, Denver has such a good defense and just a terrific secondary. Even if Jameis Winston managed to carve it up a couple of weeks ago, you want to see Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor be physically dominant. You want to see that offensive line open up holes. It's been a little bit up and down for that run game, but this is a weekend where you're going to have to lean on it. It's not a good matchup for Anthony Richardson through the air. I'm really excited. I want to see if they can impose their will on the ground. And Bo Nix playing well. He freelances. He has, I think, a little bit more willingness to try stuff than Sean Payton always appreciates. But it's one of those things where the Colts are going to have to be physical and, consistent on offense. They're going to have to run the ball well and stay on schedule, because once you get behind the chains against this Denver defense, you're toast. But defensively, it's kind of the opposite. You're going to have to make those 2 or 3 plays that Bo Nix gives you. You've got to hang on to those interceptions. You've got to find a way to get a sack here or there, because Bo Nix will run around. He will chuck it deep. He will give guys chances. So consistency on offense and then that opportunistic approach on defense is going to be the formula there.
Joined by Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. You can read his latest article over on cbssports.com. The Bo Nix and Anthony Richardson has been a conversation here in Indianapolis ever since Bo Nix played really well against the Colts in the preseason, because as we know, the preseason is everything. And so I'm just kind of curious, like with this resurgence, I wouldn't call it a resurgence, with Anthony Richardson having played better since coming back from being benched, who would you rather have currently or I guess overall, like 5 years from now and now, kind of factoring everything into it, would you rather have Bo Nix or Richardson?
That's a great question. I think that's like, you could probably put Anthony Richardson into like a vast majority of NFL quarterbacks right now because we just don't know. I think I'm not super high on Richardson, but I'm higher than the consensus just given the lack of experience. I think that right now it's definitely Nix. 5 years down the line, there's such a wide range of options for Anthony Richardson. I would say, you know what? This is an Indianapolis show. Let's go Anthony Richardson. I still, not only because you're an Indy, but like I still love the physical tools. I still believe in the development as a passer. Like, people are so quick to move on from guys because of a tough stretch, because of this, that, or the other thing. I mean, you look at Bryce Young this year as kind of a guy where like he was a much more accomplished guy in college. And even he had a really brutal jump to the NFL, had to take a seat, now is playing well. But he has played so many more NFL games than Anthony Richardson. So I think the best version of Anthony Richardson is still to come. And I think that version, there's a question of if he gets there or not, is better than Bo Nix 5 years down the line.
I agree. The question is just whether or not you're patient enough and willing to take the risk of seeing whether or not Richardson's going to develop into that best version of himself. How impressed have you been with Anthony Richardson post the benching?
Yeah, a lot better. I get that the completion numbers aren't there. I wish that every single person who looks at box scores watched film or looked at deeper box scores that included drops, that included incorrectly run routes, that included this, that, and the other thing. Like, that's the biggest thing for me as a person with a stats background. I'm like, here are the numbers. Why are the numbers this way? And you watch these games, like there was an absolute bullet touchdown. I can't remember if it was last week or a couple weeks ago. I believe the Kylan Granson that I think hit him between the eyes almost.
Yeah.
Like the numbers are not good. They are in fact ugly. But look at the times where receivers run into each other or balls are dropped. And they're just, if you had 3 or 4 completions to every game, the numbers still are not good. Let's be clear, but they're a whole lot better. And then I love, like, for example, against New England, that last drive, that is Anthony Richardson at his best. He is so darn good at the goal line if he can get them there.
Yeah.
So I think that it's been a lot better. I appreciate the fact that he has come back from that benching, which was really ugly. There were legit questions. It's easy to forget, like, they were not speaking super confidently about Anthony Richardson's future. So I've been impressed. I think that he's done what he can do and he has learned what he could have learned. I'm really just excited to see now coming off the bye. Is there more that he's learned? I'm just excited because there was a time where it looked really, really bad, and it was not that long ago. So he hasn't gotten there. He's not close to getting there yet in terms of what that physical profile projects to and the highest of the highs of his highlights, but it's been a lot better. And you're just really hoping that even a small upward trajectory continues.
No doubt. Joined by Zach Pereles, who covers the NFL for CBSSports.com. I want to talk about your article, which you can go read over at CBSSports.com. It's titled NFL Week 14, 5 Things We Liked and Didn't Like, including star receiver breaking out and the Jets collapsing again. In your article, you talk about the Vikings and their big day led by Darnold and Justin Jefferson, who had a really big day for the first time in like a month. If you're the Vikings, what do you do at quarterback with Sam Darnold, who's being awesome and obviously having just drafted JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, great question. I think that the first thing that we have to recognize is Sam Darnold is playing terrific football. This is not like a Jimmy Garoppolo was really good in San Francisco. The numbers were really good. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo was really good because he would throw the ball to open guys a lot, and he had a great running game. Sam Darnold is making like these big boy throws. Pro Football Focus calls them big time throws, and he made 4 of them in that game while having 0 turnover worthy plays. Like, this guy is playing really good ball. There were some ups and downs earlier in the season, but it's been really good recently. I think the issue is going to be price. I think that there's the one hand that says Sam Darnold's been awesome. Why don't we keep him here? There's the other hand that goes, whatever we pay him is going to cost a lot, and we just spent a first-round pick on what we believe to be our future. So I think, as much as I hate to say it, I think it's what comes next. Like, the 49ers saw a clear cap on what Jimmy Garoppolo could bring that team. And we're going to find out over the next few weeks and into the playoffs, like, is there a cap on what Sam Darnold can do? Is there going to be like a 2-turnover playoff game? You know, one of them is a backbreaker late in the game, and you say, thank you, but we think that we have something really exciting with JJ McCarthy. Obviously, we don't know how they feel about JJ. And again, like, him missing that whole rookie season is a big deal. I know that we've talked about Anthony Richardson before. Like, it's not just that he's not playing. He's not getting the practice reps. He's not getting, even the mental reps really is all that he can get. But it's not the same when you're just standing there unable to really do it. So I hate to hedge, but it's going to come down to the next few weeks because Sam Darnold will have shooters across the NFL, and deservedly so. So I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of that 49ers situation, which is actually pretty incredible because the 49ers tried to turn to Trey Lance, and all of a sudden Brock Purdy popped up. So I think that the Vikings, the difference is that they have a first-round guy who they really believe in, and I think will be a whole lot better than Trey Lance. So is that ceiling there? I think it is. Like, if Sam Darnold takes them to a Super Bowl or even a Super Bowl appearance or a conference championship appearance, how can you move on from him? And you say, JJ, we're going to sit you another year. Sam, we're going to give you the tag. So I think maybe if I had to do right now, I'd say maybe Sam Darnold gets a tag because JJ McCarthy is still cheap. He can still learn. And, if Sam Darnold gets hurt next year or something, God forbid, like, then you still have a guy there who you feel confident in, and maybe the debate starts all over. But it's just, there's still so much football to go.
There is, and like you said, like this thing with Darnold seems real. Like, pumpkin watch is over. Like, the clock hit midnight a long time ago. Like, we're 14 weeks into the season. He's been awesome. I'm very intrigued to see what they wind up doing. Are you a fan of Dan Campbell and his aggressiveness on 4th down?
Huge fan. I really like what he does, and I like it because he is consistent in it. I am always a little bit going to lead, like, you should be aggressive, but if you're going to be not aggressive, at least be consistent in it so that your team understands that mindset. Like, when the 49ers beat the Lions in the NFC Championship and everyone was like, why is Dan Campbell doing this? None of the players were upset. All of the players were like, this is who we are. We believe in it. I really like what Dan Campbell does, how much he believes I think the big thing is he believes in his offense, but he also believes in his team's ability to be resilient. I think I mentioned in that article, like when he went for it deep in his own territory and didn't get it, obviously it looks bad. It's not fun. It doesn't look good just from a visual, watcher's perspective to be like, how'd they get the ball right there? But then all of a sudden the end of the game comes and you realize the Lions still scored twice before the end of the game. Like they had no issues coming back. They had no issues taking the lead. And, they literally took the lead on the last play because of another aggressive Dan Campbell decision. So again, like when you believe in your offense, which there's no reason for him not to, you should be more aggressive and you should care less about, oh man, we gave up the ball at our own 30-yard line. Like it happens. What if the Lions punted the ball away and the Packers had a decent kick return back to the 50? That'd be 20 yards of difference. The Packers are still probably scoring something there. I think everything would just be – I think football discourse would be a lot smarter if people viewed punts as a bad thing. Like you got the ball, you didn't score, you gave the ball back to the other team. If it happened 20 or 30 yards down the field, sure, it looks better, but it's still really bad. It is bad to punt. It's obviously not the worst thing, but if you believe in your offense, if you believe in your team's ability to overcome a missed opportunity, then you should be more aggressive, just like Dan Campbell is.
Yeah, I completely agree. Joined by Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. So, Zach, where I grew up at, there was a high school called Pulaski Academy, and they never punted. They always went for it on fourth down, no matter where they were at. Like, they could be on their own 1-yard line, and it could be 4th and 15, and they were going to go for it. And they always onside kicked. And they beat everybody by a lot every single year. And ever since then, I'm like, yeah, no one should ever punt again because mathematically it doesn't make sense, and I don't want to nerd out on the radio, so I'm just going to move on. Joined by Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. You can read his latest article, NFL Week 14, 5 things we liked and didn't like. And I think something that we all liked was that game between the Rams and the Bills. That game was fantastic. And the Rams just kind of like randomly do this. They're randomly just like, you know what? We're going to be the best offense in the NFL in the NFL this week. And it makes them so intriguing. What are the chances that they make the playoffs this season?
Yeah, that NFC East wild card race has become pretty wild, and there's a long way to go. I think the Rams' best path is going to be through the NFC West, because if you look at the wild card teams ahead of them, I understand that they're only a game back of the Commanders, and you don't want to, write in wins and losses in pen, but the Commanders have a pretty decently easy schedule to finish. And the Rams are a game back. So it's got to be, I'm thinking it has to be through the NFC West. And I really like what Seattle's done. I'd probably trust, if I need one game, I probably trust Matt Stafford a little bit more than Geno Smith, even though I love Geno Smith. So I'm going to give them maybe, let's go like 40% chance to make the playoffs. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers say, but they just this is a tough one tomorrow against the 49ers, which is really a physical team. I know they won the first game, but at the 49ers on a short week is tough. Then they get the Jets, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks to finish the season. So it's going to have to be through that NFC West. They probably have to win at least 2 of those 3 games, and almost certainly that Seattle finale. If you're looking way ahead, that feels like a potential Sunday night last game of the regular season game. They still have some ground to make up. It's not the easiest closing schedule. They got absolutely destroyed by the Cardinals early in the year, so don't count out Arizona either. So I still think it's below 50%, but like you said, every once in a while you just watch the Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, Sean McVay mind meld come together, and you're like, is this the perfect football offense? That's what we saw on Sunday.
It is, and it was incredible because then you got Josh Allen on the other side. Like, okay, I'm just going to be a one-man offense and score 6 touchdowns, something that hadn't been done in over like 50 years. It was insane. Joined by Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. He covers the NFL. He's got an article out called 5 Things We Liked and Didn't Like After Week 14. Two more questions for you, Zach, and I will let you go. You had a brief bit in there on the Eagles and the Panthers in that game, and I'm just kind of curious, why do you think Bryce Young has been better, pretty similar to Anthony Richardson? Why do you think Bryce Young has been better since being benched and coming back?
I think Bryce Young, a big thing is in Alabama, he is not the biggest guy. In fact, he's quite small, and he is not the fastest guy, but he understood how to escape pressure. And like, that is the biggest thing that he is doing now, is he maybe just took a step back and saw, like, how do I manage pockets? How do I manage pockets? Andy Dalton has played in this league for a long time and had really good stretches of success because he knows how to manage pockets despite not being the world's greatest athlete. I've been really impressed just by Bryce Young, like, managing his pockets. There were some truly awful sacks, and I understand last year the line was terrible. This year, what was concerning early on is that the line is much improved, and he had still struggled with taking sacks, when even one guy broke through. So I've been really impressed with Bryce Young, just like keeping plays alive, kind of understanding that pocket movement, when to get rid of the ball. The ball's been out, especially with Adam Thielen back. The ball has been out. That's one guy who we can just trust. And the wide receivers, they are so young. Getting Adam Thielen back, just a guy who knows where to go, knows where to be, when to be, catches the ball. That's huge for a young quarterback. You look at a lot of young quarterbacks around the league, if they don't have a great supporting cast, they need at least one dependable guy. And Thielen has absolutely been that. I'm just like, the guy just keeps going, which is really, really impressive. I just have been so impressed by his pocket management. There are so many fewer negative plays. They've been able to run the ball with Chuba Hubbard, which has really helped as well. Then you get Bryce in the play action game, take a little bit of pressure off of him. They could not run the ball at all last year. So it's all of those things, but it starts with way fewer negative plays, way fewer sacks. And maybe he just needed some time to be like, hey, like, this is how Andy avoided a sack here. Hey, this is how I didn't avoid a sack earlier on. And I think Andy Dalton being around has really helped as well. Bryce was really involved when he was benched for Andy, and then Andy has been really involved throughout. So it's just all these little things coming together. But number one is the negative play avoidance.
Last question for you, and I will let you go. What's funnier? The Jets missing the playoffs again, or Kadarius Toney getting picked up by the Browns, playing one game, and getting waived after muffing a punt and getting flagged for taunting after fair catching a punt?
Oh, man. Funnier?
I think they're both hilarious. Like, the Jets going all in just to miss the playoffs for the 14th year in a row, I think. I find that pretty comical. And then the Kadarius Toney thing is just, it's incredible.
Yeah, I think I think they are both funny. I agree with you. Like, from a basic human being standpoint, though, I think I'm a little bit more annoyed with Kadarius Toney. Just like, if you were a coach, you would just be so frustrated by literally the two plays he plays in the fourth quarter are a muff punt and a personal foul when he fair catches the ball down double digits. So funnier, I think, is got to be the Jets. Just like when you look at everything that went on, from the Hard Knocks to they clearly just like were completely unprepared last year. Then they fire their coach. It doesn't get any, the product does not improve after they fire Robert Saleh. Like, that's just like, it's funny because that organization has become a joke. Like, they were a joke for so long because they missed out on guys, and then they feel like they get this guy, they parade him out, and it's not good. Like, the product is really, really bad. The ways that they find, the ways that they find to lose games it's funny. Like the way that they lost I thought it was interesting too. Like the way that they lost to the Dolphins is not just one that they get into field goal range, but Devontae Adams goes out, which you just cannot do. And it was interesting because the broadcast really wasn't making a huge deal of it. And I'm sitting in my apartment like, Devontae, what are you doing? And then it's almost like that they're going to find a way to lose, because even after the field goal, huge kick return, defense can't get a stop. They make the field goal. They lose. The Dolphins make the field goal. The Dolphins win the coin toss. They go right down the field, like as if there's absolutely no resistance, whatever. And this is still a talented defense. And then the Dolphins just take the ball and score. And like they threw the exact same play to Jonnu Smith twice for 34 total yards. Like, is that a joke? Where is the preparation? Where's the resilience of like, hey, we're going to get a stop. Hey, we're going to win this game. It almost felt like the moment Devontae Adams went out of bounds, where their win probability is still quite high, and then they make the field goal and it's even higher, you still think that they're going to find a way to lose. So I think that's funnier. Kadarius Toney, a little annoying more than funny, but still funny.
I completely agree. Zach, thanks for your time as always, man. You were great.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I'll see you. That is Zach Pereles of CBS Sports. You can read all of his stuff over at cbssports.com. Like I said, he's got that new article out on things that happened in Week 14. When we come back here in a couple minutes, more thoughts on Broncos versus Colts.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
You know, if you ask the Indianapolis Colts what the goal this year was, they would probably say something like, oh, the goal is to develop Anthony Richardson, when that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be to make the playoffs, and they have an awesome opportunity on Sunday to ensure that happens if they can go on the road to Denver and win that game. I am intrigued by this matchup for obvious reasons, playoff implications. And the real reason why I'm excited for it is I think there's a pretty decent chance that Anthony Richardson goes out there and plays really well. Right? The extra week to prepare and get ready should hopefully allow him to be better. Hopefully Josh Downs is back with the extra week of rest. Hopefully Michael Pittman Jr. is closer to 100% after the extra week of rest. Hopefully Ryan Kelly's back, so on and so forth. So I think we're set up for a pretty good Anthony Richardson game. Zach Hicks mentioned yesterday that Shane Steichen averaged 37.5 points coming off of bye weeks or when he was the offensive coordinator with the Eagles. They scored 28 points off their bye week last year. So the Colts are set up in a spot to have a good day from Anthony Richardson. And look, if you get a good day from Anthony Richardson, then you have to win those games because pretty simply, the Colts aren't always going to get a good performance from Anthony Richardson. So when you get them, you have to win those games. You do. It's just a simple fact of the matter. When we come back here in a couple minutes, it seems like Bellichick to North Carolina continues to pick up a little bit of steam. My thoughts on that when we come back here in about 3.5 minutes.
The holidays are happening at Diamonds Direct. Still rushing to finish your holiday shopping? Don't worry, we've got you covered. This weekend only, it's our last chance sale with 20% off virtually everything. Earrings, bracelets, pendants, and more. Plus special financing options up to 5 years. But don't wait, this is your final opportunity to find the perfect gift at the best value before the holidays. Plus special designer appearances. Visit us during extended holiday hours or shop online and pick up in store. Our 20% off last chance sale ends Sunday. Learn more at diamondsdirect.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. It is a nice, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday, and there's a decent chance that today Bill Bellichick could be officially announced as the North Carolina head football coach. He's made it pretty well known that he's interested in the job. He gave them a 400-page manifesto with all of these different things that he wants and expects, and he wants to turn them into an NFL factory. That is what he said. And I think this would be awesome. I think this would be incredibly fascinating, much like the Deion Sanders to Colorado phenomenon that happened a couple years ago. This would be interesting because of the professionalization of college football, and who knows professional football better than Bill Belichick? The answer is nobody. I've seen some people in favor of this idea, and I've seen other people completely against it. I am completely for the idea of Bill Belichick going and coaching at North Carolina. I think this would be awesome. I seriously, this would be absolutely fascinating. I think he would do an excellent job in the coaching aspect because football is football, and Bill Belichick knows football as well as anybody. Okay, like his teams would tackle well, just like they did when he was in New England. His teams would block well, just like they did when he was in New England, and they would be disciplined, just like they were when he was in New England. When you do those three things, you can beat anybody. I have zero questions about Bill Belichick's ability to coach football on any level. High school, pee-wee, college, pro, whatever. Zero questions need to be asked about his ability to coach football. If you have questions about his ability to coach football, then you probably don't know very much about football. The question that people have, or the doubters in Bill Belichick about whether or not he would find success at North Carolina, it all has to do with recruiting. How is he going to recruit? How is he going to relate to players? How is he going to do all of those things? First and foremost, his girlfriend's 24, so I think he'd be fine relating to young people. Okay. Secondly, recruiting is not a thing anymore. Okay. Recruiting, it doesn't exist. It's part of why Nick Saban retired. Okay. Like Nick Saban's words were, what used to be conversations about how you're going to help young men grow and become better players and become better people. Those conversations are gone. It's, hey, how much money are you going to give us? And that's it. The days of sitting in a high schooler's living room with his parents, laying out how you as a coach are going to do everything you can to help them not only in football, but also in life. Those days are gone. Okay. They're gone. Bryce Underwood, the number one ranked high school prospect in the country, also the number one ranked quarterback prospect in the country coming out of high school. He didn't pick Michigan because Sharon Moore and him have a great relationship. He picked Michigan because they offered him like $10 million or whatever it is. They're like, hey, we'll pay you a whole bunch of money. And he was like, okay, sounds fantastic to me. As long as Bill Belichick has some sort of NIL backing, as long as North Carolina is able to raise the funds to be able to go out and buy players, North Carolina is going to be really good. Because what high schooler doesn't want to play for a 6-time Super Bowl winning coach? Okay, like the goal of showing up on a college campus and winning like a national championship, that is no longer the goal of many of these college football players. Their goal is to show up, develop, and then go play in the NFL. And if you're a college football player, is there a better coach to play for than the guy who won not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 Super Bowls and is the second winningest coach in the history of the NFL? I don't think there is. Please, if there's another guy out there, his name's Nick Saban, and that guy doesn't coach anymore. If Bill Belichick winds up as the head coach at the University of North Carolina, he will win games because he is that good of a coach. And if they have the NIL for him to go out and get the players that he needs, then North Carolina could very quickly ascend to the top of college football because there's not a coach in college football that's better than Bill Bellichick. No way around it. I hope this happens. And I think that North Carolina would dominate in the transfer portal because a lot of those guys that transfer are looking for opportunities to play, improve, and eventually go on to the league. And once again, there's not a better guy to play for than Bill Belichick. And we're seeing all these college athletes, all these college football players right now hop into the transfer portal. I mean, it's the Wild West out there. College football players are hopping in the transfer portal like it's a hot tub with swimsuit models. Okay, it's insane. Everyone is in the portal. It's free agency every year. All that good stuff is true. But the truth of the matter, and something that these athletes find out, not all of them, but some of them, a lot of them actually, they find out that the portal isn't as great as everybody thinks. A lot of players, when they jump in the portal, they make a commitment to never playing football or whatever sport they're in ever again. But everyone thinks that things are going to get better, but the grass, it's not always greener. There's that new quote that athletes say, where it's like the grass isn't always greener, and you just have to water your own grass. And then everyone hops in the portal, or they demand trades, or they leave in free agency, whatever it is. So even they don't believe in that quote. But anyway, for every story of a player that transferred and found success, there are two players who transferred and never played their sports again, right? They enter the portal thinking everybody's going to want them, even though they've never played a snap, but they don't have any sort of game tape available for people to look at. And then they enter the portal, no one calls them, and then they're like, oh, hey, coach, can I come back? And they're like, nah, man, sorry, we gave your scholarship to this other guy already. And then they're just kind of left out in the cold. It's like, geez, I'm never going to play football ever again. A lot of collegiate athletes transfer when they don't need to. So I was sitting down last night and I asked myself the question of, when should guys transfer and when should guys stay? And so I've come up with 3 reasons for each. These aren't all the reasons. These are just the ones that I think are important. Okay? So when should an athlete transfer? Athletes should transfer if their coach lies to them. Okay? I played with some players in college baseball, who transferred into Henderson State because they showed up at some Division I school or some other Division II school with promises from the head coach that they'd play and that, whatever. And then they'd look up and they were buried on the depth chart. It happens. I'll never forget being in high school and getting to watch a college football game with Madre Hill. If you don't know who that is, he was a great running back at Arkansas, played in the NFL for a short stint, was with the Raiders and things. I'll never forget him looking at me and saying, hey, Jonathan, if you play football, you should punt or kick, because being a punter or a kicker in the NFL is the best gig. It's better than playing any other position. And I kept that in mind, and I never punted or kicked. Anyway, he was a great running back at Arkansas, played in the NFL. After his football career, he went into coaching. He was the running backs coach for South Carolina when Steve Spurrier was the head coach. And I will never forget Madre Hill telling my dad, older brother, and me why he quit and why he won't coach anymore. Coach Spurrier would send his assistants out and tell them to make a ton of promises. Okay, things like, hey, man, your freshman year, if you come here, you'll play. Or, hey, if you come here, we won't recruit anyone at your position for like the next 2 years. That way, when you're a junior, you have a pretty good chance to play. Different promises like that. Then that freshman would show up, and none of those promises would be delivered upon. Okay, they get buried on the depth chart, or they'd find out that, the recruiting staff was recruiting another running back or whatever. And then they go to Coach Spurrier and say something like, hey, Coach, you promised me that I'd get to play a lot my freshman year, and I'm riding the bench. And then Coach Spurrier would look at them and say, I never promised you that, which is technically true, but that's a sleazy thing to do. If that happens to a guy, coach promises you a whole bunch of things, you should transfer out. Got zero issues with that whatsoever. Athletes should also transfer down, to be more specific. Athletes should transfer down if they realize that they aren't good enough to play at whatever school they're at. Like if you showed up to play football at Indiana this year, or basketball at Indiana, and you're riding the pine and you're never getting to play, and you're getting the crap beat out of you in practice, not because you aren't playing hard, but simply because you aren't good enough, then you should transfer down. No doubt in my mind. Because ultimately, you only get 4 years to play college sports. And chances are, if you aren't good enough to play it wherever you started at, that's, those 4 years, once they're up, you're never going to get to play again. So, in my opinion, you should try to play as much as you can. And if a player realizes that they aren't good enough to play at Indiana or Purdue or Ball State or Indiana State or wherever, transfer down and go somewhere where you can actually play and contribute. Because that's ultimately what every collegiate athlete wants. They want to play the game that they went to whatever school to play in. I played with a guy in college who pitched. He transferred down. He went to Wichita State as this big left-handed pitcher. His name was Allen. He was 6'4", left-handed, funky, but he didn't throw hard enough. So he didn't throw a single inning at Wichita State his freshman or sophomore year. And so he transferred down to the Division II level where he showed up at Henderson, and he immediately made us better. Got no issue with guys transferring if that is their issue. On the other side of things, athletes should transfer up if they have the chance. They should. There's zero doubt in my mind that if you have an opportunity to transfer up, you should do that. Like if you're a mid-major guy with a chance to go play football at Alabama or basketball at Purdue, you should make that leap in a heartbeat. Okay, like let's just be honest here. No one grows up and dreams of playing basketball at UNC Greensboro or Indiana State. Kids grow up dreaming about playing at Indiana, Purdue, Duke, Kentucky, or wherever else. And if an athlete has a chance to make that leap from mid-major to that high Division I major, then they should do that because that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that many people dream of. And also probably comes with an increase in NIL and things of that nature. Now, on the flip side of things, there are a million reasons why you should not transfer. These are just three of the ones that I think are important. Not transfer because they didn't play as much as they wanted. That's a stupid reason to transfer. If you're a freshman, at Indiana, okay, and you've got an NFL or NBA talent that's like 2 years older than you, and you didn't play because there's this awesome dude in front of you, and you know that you're good enough to play at some point, then you should stay. Having a school that you stayed at for 4 years, it's a really special thing. Like I went to a really small school in Southwest Arkansas. I've been back twice, something like that. It's still special to go back on campus and just remember everything that happened there. Okay, so like if you're not playing because you got some dude in front of you, that's awesome. Like, no, stay there, learn from that guy, compete against that guy, and become a better player for it. Don't miss out on memories that you can make because you're upset because some guy that's way better than you played over you as a freshman. That is a dumb reason to transfer. Guys should also not transfer for just a little bit more NIL money. Okay, like if you're, going to transfer and you get a call and someone's like, "Hey man, we'll pay an extra $3,000 in NIL money." Don't change schools. Don't do that. That's a waste of your time. Okay. Now, obviously, if you get a call and they're like, "Hey man, we're going to pay you an extra $100,000, leave immediately." All right. And go to your coach and say, "Hey, they're going to pay me an extra $100,000. I'm sorry, but I can't turn that down." Like that makes sense. Right. But the reason why I say don't leave for a little more NIL money is because staying somewhere, creating memories is it's a valuable thing. And so is leaving a legacy. Like Ashton Jeanty at Boise State could win the Heisman. I don't think he should. I think it should be Travis Hunter, but that's beside the point. But Ashton Jeanty turned down opportunities to make more money, to stay at Boise State and build a legacy. And that's worth a lot because in 20 years, after he's done playing in the NFL, he can go back to Boise and he will be a cool guy, big man on campus for the rest of his life. And that is a really cool and really special thing. Don't throw that away for just a little bit more money. Don't do it. Again, if a school comes along and they're like, "Hey man, here's $100,000 for you to leave," then yeah, leave. Do that because that's a lot of money and there are plenty of jobs out here in the real world that will never offer you that much money. So go take that. But if it's for an extra like $5,000, stay. Don't waste your time. And then the last reason is guys should not transfer just because they don't like their coach. Transferring because you don't like your coach is dumb. I think it's the worst reason that you can transfer. It ruins people. Because in the real world, you can't just quit because you don't like your boss. I mean, you could, I guess, but you'd wind up being homeless and, that wouldn't be good. Stay there, work hard. Right? If you don't like your coach, it's probably because they're getting on to you for not meeting their expectations or whatever. So stay there, work hard, meet their expectations, and change their mind on whatever they're mad at you for. Okay? You should not transfer just because you don't like your coach. That is an incredibly soft thing to do. And me personally, if I was a coach and I asked the guy, hey man, like, why are you transferring? Oh, well, I don't like my coach. Oh, you don't? Okay. I don't want you anymore. That would be my personal reaction. That is just an incredibly soft reason to not do anything. So those are my 3 reasons why guys should and should not transfer. Guys are probably not going to tune in and heed my advice, but we will see. Anyway, when we come back here in about 4 minutes, Caitlin Clarke said some interesting things yesterday in her interview with Times Magazine. My thoughts on her comments when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Welcome back to The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. Happy Wednesday. Ohio State fans, come on, guys. Don't be so soft. Ohio, soft state, soft football team. That's why they can't beat Michigan. Michigan's just tougher than they are. Apparently, Ohio State Representative Josh Williams introduced the Ohio Sportsmanship Act on Tuesday. The act would make it a felony to plant a flag in the center of Ohio State's field, which is just, it's soft, which, I don't expect anything less from Ohio State and their fans. Like, I'm not surprised in the slightest, but I want to talk about Caitlin Clarke because she said something that surprised a lot of people. For those of you who don't know, Caitlin Clarke was named the Times Athlete of the Year. She joined LeBron James as the second basketball player ever to be named the Times Athlete of the Year. It's a real honor. Look, anytime you're in a category and it's just you and LeBron, that's special. Okay, and she fully deserved that award, right? Like, they really could have given it to her sooner. I mean, she took the world by storm at Iowa for 2 straight years. Okay, back-to-back Final Four appearances. No one paid much attention to women's college basketball, yet alone Iowa's women's team, right? And then the next thing you knew, she was the face of a sport that had never had a face before. Okay, millions of people were tuning in to watch Iowa women's basketball, not UConn, not South Carolina, kind of the two programs that have really dominated the sport over the past, 20 years. It was UConn for a long time, and now it's South Carolina. And amidst all that, Caitlin Clarke shows up and is like, I am the thing to see. She was the biggest collegiate star we've had since Tim Tebow. Okay, she was amazing. The stuff that she did at Iowa was awesome. Then she gets drafted, and despite elevating the WNBA to heights it had never reached before, the women in the WNBA did not like her. Caitlin Clarke was more popular than them, and so they didn't like her. Caitlin Clarke made more money than them because she signed all these endorsements with Nike and all these different places, and because of that, these WNBA players didn't like her. They didn't like Caitlin Clarke because she was better than them, right? She shows up and she just breaks every record ever. They didn't like her because she lived a different lifestyle than them. They didn't like her, in part, it seemed, because she was white. That's going to change, though. Because in Caitlin Clarke's interview with Time Magazine, after being named the Times Athlete of the Year, she said this, quote, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league have been really good. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. So when Caitlin Clarke said that, the internet broke again, because whenever Caitlin Clarke says anything, the internet breaks. But this was the first time we had heard Caitlin Clarke make anything close to a political statement. And when she said that, when that interview came out and that quote surfaced, she lost a lot of fans and she gained a lot of fans. Okay. And, for her peers will likely be nicer to her now. Congratulations, Caitlin. Caitlin Clarke's entire rookie season was an interesting thing. Some people viewed her as this straight white hope. They made her into this political figure, even though Caitlin Clarke had never once made any sort of political statement, and no one knew where she aligned on anything. We didn't know her opinion on same-sex marriage. We didn't know her opinion on white people and black people and all that. We had no idea, but people decided to label her anyway. And now there are people upset with her and this statement. And the reason why they're upset It's because they assumed something about Caitlin Clarke, right? They made her into this straight white hope without knowing a single thing about her outside of how good she was or is at basketball. Okay, and if you're one of those people, don't be mad at her because you and the media created this fantasy in your mind that she was something that you wanted her to be, and she didn't turn out to be that. All of these takes that are coming out on Caitlin Clarke are simply wrong. Okay? There's people on Twitter that think that other people care. They're out there like, oh, I'm never going to watch another WNBA game ever again. I will never watch Caitlin Clarke ever again. Yeah, I got to be honest, bro. I do not care. Don't care in the slightest. And most people don't. The viewership of the WNBA will not change that much because Caitlin Clarke is still an incredible basketball player. Okay? People didn't fall in love with her when she was playing for Iowa because she was a straight white girl. Okay? If that was the case, then we would have had this Caitlin Clarke phenomenon a long time ago with some other player. People fell in love with Caitlin Clarke because she pulled up from 30 feet and threw incredible flashy passes. That is why people tuned in and watched her play. She didn't become this political figure until she got to the WNBA. And the last time I checked, to be fair, I haven't finished reading through that interview just yet. The only thing, she hasn't, announced that she will no longer be pulling up from 30 feet. She hasn't announced that she will no longer throw flashy passes. Okay, the things that made her entertaining are still there. And people still want to see her play basketball like I do. I'm very intrigued to see how much better she's gotten over the course of the offseason, how much better she's going to be now that she actually had an offseason. The only thing in the world of Caitlin Clarke that has changed is that she is no longer going to be used as this political symbol, which isn't a bad thing. I thought people said that they didn't want politics in their sports. Okay, the truth of the matter is that people who enjoy basketball will continue to tune in and watch. Look, if the only reason why you were tuning in to watch Caitlin Clarke was because she was a straight white girl, then you probably shouldn't have been wasting your time watching anyway. Seriously. The audience is predominantly made up of people that just like basketball and like watching her play basketball. And that audience isn't going anywhere. When you're a great athlete and you entertain people at the same level that Caitlin Clarke does, people are going to watch, no matter what you say about politics or whatever. Okay? Like, people didn't stop watching LeBron James in 2016 when he showed up at Hillary Clinton's rally in Ohio and stood on the stage with her and publicly endorsed her. Guess what? People still bought LeBron James jerseys. People still continued to watch him play basketball. Steph Curry, this year, he publicly endorsed Kamala Harris for president. Guess which team, which player has the highest viewership rating in the NBA? It's the Golden State Warriors because they have Steph Curry. When Patrick Mahomes and his family endorsed Donald Trump, guess what? People didn't stop watching the Chiefs. Everyone kept watching. The list goes on. When, the stuff came out about Ray Lewis and how, abusive and all the bad things he did, people still watched the Ravens play. They did. Okay? Like when athletes that are awesome and entertaining do things that people don't like, it doesn't impact their habits. As long as they're good at whatever sport it is, people are going to tune in and watch. Because if we're truly honest here, most people, not everybody, but most people don't care about other people's political leanings. They don't. It has no effect on them whatsoever. And they definitely do not care about some professional athlete's political leanings. I know I don't. Whenever a professional athlete endorses a politician, I'm like, that's dumb. And then I turn on the TV and I watch that athlete play sports for a few hours because they're good at that sport. Most people, not everybody, most people aren't going to care enough about Caitlin Clarke's statement to stop watching her play basketball because she's a great player. Okay, that is ultimately what people care about. So if you think that the WNBA's ratings are about to plummet, they aren't. Okay, now, If Caitlin Clarke starts to suck, then people will stop watching. That's a reality. That's just very plain and simple reality. If you don't believe me, just look at the Indiana Pacers. I was locked into them last year. Still am because I'm a sicko. But the more casual fans of the Indiana Pacers, like they probably watched them play a lot last year because they were good and they were fun and they were exciting and they probably really liked Tyrese Halliburton because the passing is excellent and he was knocking down threes and he was fun and he was entertaining. But this year, I bet that I haven't looked into it, but I guarantee you that the ratings for Pacer games are down. You say, Jonathan, how do you know that? Like, why do you say that? Because the Pacers aren't very good this year. And it's the same thing with Caitlin Clarke. If she shows up this year on her second year on the Fever, and she's better, and she's making more threes, and she's still throwing those exquisite passes behind the back and, leading the break really well. She's still doing all of those things that made her entertaining at Iowa and made her entertaining her rookie year with the Fever, then people are still going to watch. That's just the simple reality of the situation. The Indianapolis Colts are set to take on the Denver Broncos this coming Sunday, and I cannot wait for this game. This is the biggest Colts regular season game since Week 18 last year. And it's going to be fun. Like, games like this are always fun and exciting to watch. A quick injury update from the Colts. Ryan Kelly and Jalen Carleys will start their 21-day returns this week. So that means that they're practicing and there's a decent chance that they're going to play on Sunday. Braden Smith, starting right tackle, he's got something personal going on. He's apparently probably not going to play on Sunday. And then Josh Downs is going to practice today, which is a great sign. Hopefully that means Josh Downs is back in time to play on Sunday because the Colts need him. That is the very simple reality of this. The Colts have to have Josh Downs because this Denver Broncos team's really good. Patrick Surtain II, that dude's awesome. That guy is an incredible corner. He's the best corner in the NFL. The Colts need as many of their receivers healthy as possible. Hopefully, Michael Pittman Jr. with the week off is going to come back and be better, healthier, closer to 100%. Hopefully, if Anthony Richardson throws Michael Pittman Jr. the football and it's like right at eye level, hopefully Michael Pittman Jr. catches it. He didn't do that a couple weeks ago. So the Colts are getting a little bit healthier, which is important because this is their biggest game of the season, which I think is a great thing for Anthony Richardson. Because when you look at Anthony Richardson throughout the course of the year, when has he played his best? In the fourth quarter, in big moments, even in the losses. Okay, obviously, he's got the 19-play game-winning drive against the New York Jets, against the New England Patriots, a week and a half ago. He's got the game-winning drive against the Jets, 2.5 weeks ago. He's got, the excellent play against the Texans week 1 down the stretch. Like, in the fourth quarter is when Anthony Richardson does his best. That's when he plays his best football. And it's because those are the biggest moments. And hopefully, those moments continue on, right? And because this is a big game and every single moment is big and important, hopefully that success transfers not only in just the fourth quarter, but in the entire game because every single play is going to be a big deal. Can't wait to watch this game on Sunday. It's the biggest game of the Colts season. If they win, they've got a pretty great chance at making the playoffs. And if they lose, then they're done. And we start talking about the NFL draft next week. Yay. I don't want to do that. I really hope the Colts win. More on the Colts and the Broncos when we come back here in 4 minutes. Another diva wide receiver is emerging, and then I may touch again on the Bill Belichick to North Carolina thing that could be going on. All that coming your way here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. It is Wednesday, halfway through the week. I got a great weekend in store. I won't lie. My wife is gone Friday night, so I'm going to get a McRib from McDonald's, and I'm going to go play some pickup basketball. And then Saturday, I don't know what I'm doing on Saturday. Probably watching college hoops. Can't wait. And bowl games. Bowl games start this week. Let's be honest. Do you care about bowl games anymore? I don't. That's just the reality of the matter. Don't care about really any of them because everyone transfers and all the good players sit out because they don't want to get hurt because people are soft. Anyway, oh crap, I lost my place. So the Colts this week, big game coming up on Sunday, and I am so incredibly intrigued to see what the Indianapolis Colts look like coming off of this bye week, right? They should be a little bit healthier. Josh Downs is practicing this week. They opened up the 21-day window for Ryan Kelly to return. So we'll see how they look. And the thing that I'm most intrigued to see, what is the offense going to look like? What are the Colts going to do on the offensive side of the football? What is the game plan going to be? Because Shane Steichen, a guy who's supposed to be an offensive-minded head coach, a guy who is supposed to be an excellent play caller, a guy who is, I wouldn't say revered, but very well respected, at least by the media. I don't know about around the league because I don't know people in the league. Not yet anyway. So how does he come out and attack this Broncos defense that is second in the NFL in points allowed per game and leads the NFL in sacks? Because there are some weeks where you, me, everyone else who's a Colts fan, we sit back and we watch this Miami Dolphins. We watch this Indianapolis Colts team play. And the offense looks awesome. It's quick screens. It's a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor in both the run and pass game. It's Anthony Richardson to side runs. And then from time to time, there's a deep shot to A.D. Mitchell or Alec Pierce, right? And on those days, I sit back on my couch with my potato chips, and I say, geez, this offense looks good. They're moving the football. Things are going well. And then there are other Sundays where it feels like the Colts break the huddle, and they're like, Anthony Richardson, throw the ball as far as you can. Alec Pierce, run as fast as you can, and let's see if you can catch it. And obviously those Sundays, things don't go very well for the Colts. And look, the best coaches in the NFL don't lose games coming off of bye weeks. Like Andy Reid is like an insane 15-1 or something like that coming off of bye weeks. Sean Payton, the coach that Shane Steichen has to coach against on Sunday, falls into a similar boat. And look, when you give good coaches an extra week to prep, they should be beyond prepared for everything that this offense and defense is going to throw at them. So I'm very intrigued to see how the offensive play calling unravels on Sunday. Obviously, game situation impacts things. Like if you're down 14 in the fourth quarter, you're going to throw the ball more. And if you're up, you're going to run the ball more and all those things. But I'm very intrigued to see what the point of emphasis is for the Indianapolis Colts offensively going into that game. Gus Bradley has got the best job ever. I mean, he does, right? Like the fact that they had a bye week doesn't mean anything for Gus Bradley because he's going to do the exact same thing that he always does. All right, guys, we're going to run cover 3, cover 2, defensive line get home. And when they get in the red zone, hopefully we can stop them. And defense, I hope you're well conditioned because you will be on the field for 40 minutes. That is the Indianapolis Colts defense. And so I'm sorry, but I'm assuming, or I'm not going to assume, maybe you're the same way. Maybe you, like me, are not looking forward to this defense because no matter how much time off you give the Colts, and no matter how much time you give Gus Bradley to prepare a defense to deal with fill-in-the-blank offense, in this case, it's rookie quarterback Bo Nix, a good defensive coordinator would be like, okay, what exotic blitzes, what weird looks can we show Bo Nix that he hasn't seen much of in the NFL? That's what a good defensive coordinator would do. And I'm just not convinced that Gus Bradley is going to be that guy. I don't expect for Gus Bradley to put together some sort of intriguing blitz package that challenges, Bo Nix and his ability to process and read the defense. I don't expect that from him. I expect rush 4, drop 7, cover 3, cover 2. Maybe we'll blitz one extra guy every now and then. But for the most part, we're going to be incredibly conservative. And, we're going to see whether or not you can pick us apart. And Bo Nix has proven, that he can do that. Sure, he got off to a rough start. But as the year has progressed, he's gotten better. Just like Anthony Richardson has gotten better as the year has progressed. And if Gus Bradley just runs out there and is like, we're just going to run these 3 defenses, then Sean Payton, a really good offensive coach and a really good play caller, he is going to pick them apart. And the Colts will have a really hard time winning this game unless they score a whole bunch of points. And maybe they do. I hope they do. I expect the offense to find a way to score, but we have to keep in mind that this Broncos defense is really good. Leads the NFL in sacks. Braden Smith probably not going to play on Sunday. Ryan Kelly hopefully returns, so that they're going to have some issues at tackle. It's probably going to be Matt Gonsalves and Bernard Raymond, which is fine. I'd rather have Braden Smith at right tackle, but Gonsalves was serviceable against the Patriots, even though that Patriots defense is nowhere near the same level as the Broncos. But this is what the extra week of prep is for. This extra week of prep is to give the offensive line time to figure things out and to give Anthony Richardson an extra week to look at that defense and to give Shane Steichen an extra week to figure out how to prepare his team best to go on the road to a tough place to play, Denver, the altitude, all those things, to prepare his team to go on the road to take on Denver and hopefully win that game because they have to win. Like, if they don't win, they are out. They will not make the playoffs this year. They'll be down 3 games with the Broncos having the tiebreaker, which means then at their best, they could tie the Broncos and be left out because the Broncos have the tiebreaker. So they have to win this week. There's simply no way around that. And winning is everything, right? Like, winning should fix everything, but it doesn't. A.J. Brown, the receiver in Philly, who's awesome, he's a really good player, but he's upset because he's not getting the ball despite the Philadelphia Eagles being 11-2. Graham, a guy who was playing for the Eagles, then he's out for the rest of the year with an injury. He went on local Philly sports talk radio and was like, yeah, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown used to be friends and all that kind of stuff. And it's crazy. And honestly, the fact that A.J. Brown's upset because he's not getting the ball despite the Eagles being 11-2 is absurd. Like, have you heard it? Have you heard anything dumber than that? There's that phrase that people love to throw around and people love to use. You know it. It's winning fixes everything. And after seeing this from A.J. Brown, this needs a slight revision. That phrase needs a slight revision. It should be winning fixes everything except diva wide receivers. Why is A.J. Brown upset? I get it. The Eagles don't throw a ball. They don't throw the ball a lot. They run the ball more than any other team in the NFL. But it's working. The offense scores points. Saquon Barkley's been a stud, right? And then on third down, when they need to throw it, A.J. Brown has been a good, reliable player this year who's gotten open. Okay, the Eagles are undefeated in games that A.J. Brown plays, so he's clearly having an impact, right? And the ultimate goal, or what should be the ultimate goal for any athlete, is to win. And A.J. Brown caring more about his own production than winning is a red flag in a teammate. Like, I would hate to play with that guy. That guy would upset me so much if he isn't willing to sacrifice some of his numbers to win more games. Then he's a bad teammate. And I get it. Numbers impact how much money you make, and guys have bonuses built into their contracts. And obviously, if they hit those bonuses, then they make more money. And like those things matter. They do. But I think every good teammate, everyone who wants to win, realizes that you have to sacrifice things for your teammates. It is part of being on a good team. And someone needs to remind A.J. Brown about that. You know, the Eagles have a chance at winning the Super Bowl this year. They're one of like 4, maybe 5 teams that if they won it, people wouldn't be all that surprised by. But A.J. Brown could get in the way of that. And that is one thing with the Colts that I do like. They don't have any issues like that. They don't have any issues like that whatsoever. Like Michael Pittman Jr., probably their best receiver. Actually, not. He's not. It's Josh Downs. But a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., he's just a tough dude. He's like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do what's asked of me. I'm going to block on the perimeter when we run the football, and I'm going to run good routes. And if I'm open, I'm probably going to catch it. Love Michael Pittman Jr. because of that. And then you've got Josh Downs, who doesn't say anything. The dude is incredibly quiet despite being an absolute stud. Okay? He's like, you know what? I'm just going to line up. Whatever I'm told, I'm going to get open, and I'm going to catch the ball. And then you got Alec Pierce. Who doesn't say much of anything either. He's just like, you know what? I'm going to run by people, and if you throw me the ball, I'm probably going to catch it. And then you got A.D. Mitchell, who besides the pre-draft issues, not pre-draft, but post-draft issues where he was like, I'm upset because I fell and all those things. Outside of that, the guy hasn't said much. To be fair, he hasn't had much to say because he hasn't been very good. But I will say that is one thing that I do like about this Colts team, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Like, they don't have any mouths. You know, like Anthony Richardson, pretty reserved. Okay, he said one thing that he shouldn't have about being tired, and that wasn't even like a diva thing. That was just a young ignorance thing. Right? As I said, the receivers don't say much. Jonathan Taylor, really positive guy. That guy's all about positivity. Yay. And then, you know, obviously all the offensive linemen are pretty chill. And then you've got the defensive side of the ball where Zaire Franklin doesn't shut up. And aside from that, they're good. Like DeForest Buckner, pretty chill guy. The corners, usually corners can be kind of mouthy. Jalen Jones isn't. Kenny Moore, unless he's calling out his teammates like he did a couple weeks ago, he's pretty chill. He's not super mouthy. And so, like, I will say, with the exception of Zaire Franklin, I do appreciate how chill this Colts team is. Okay. I think it's important because when you've got multiple personalities in a room, you need some guys that are a little more go with the flow. Okay. You can't have multiple guys in the room complaining about everything. Okay. And so they're going to be fine. I really, man, I like the Colts this week. I do. But, man, the Broncos are good. And every time I watch them play, I'm impressed because Bo Nix just gets better every week. And I don't know. It's an interesting thing. It's tough to kind of decide. The Colts are still 4.5-point underdogs. The last time I checked, I'm going to double check that here real quick. I would take them to cover that. We'll kind of see how it goes. But ultimately, as we all know, whether or not the Colts win this game is directly dependent upon Anthony Richardson, right? If he plays at the same level that he played at when they played against the Jets, then the Colts are going to be fine. Like, if he plays at that level again, then they will probably win. That is the reality of it. If he completes 67% of his passes and he throws a couple touchdowns and he runs for one, then they're going to have a great chance to win. If he's gritty and he guts things out like he did against the Patriots, then they're going to have a decent chance to win. But if he goes out and he performs how he did before being benched, then the Colts are toast. They're toast. They just are, because this Broncos team, once again, is one of the better teams in the NFL. This defense is good. Bo Nix gets better every week. Sean Payton's going to have that team revved up and ready to go. I can't wait to watch this game. I think we're going to find out a lot about Shane Steichen, right? What's he going to look like coming off the bye, taking on a guy in Sean Payton who also had a bye? And we're going to learn a little bit more about Anthony Richardson as we continue to do every single week. How was his prep for 2 weeks? Was it good enough to go on the road in a big game and win? We're going to find it all out. I can't wait. I've got a big show set up for tomorrow. It's going to be good, but not as good of a show as Dan Dockich has lined up for today. He's coming up next. He'll be on from noon to 3. We've got 3 great guests that are scheduled to come on. A lot of talk about Indiana football. It's going to be a blast. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way here in about 5 minutes. I'll be on the air tomorrow from 10 to noon, and I will talk to you then.
Monster Jam, as big as it gets.